I did not have sexual relations with that woman.
Yes or no? Did you ever take banned substances to enhance your cycling performance?
Yes.
I had no prior knowledge of the planned assault on Nancy Kerrigan.
I am deeply sorry for my irresponsible and selfish behavior I engaged in.
Guys, welcome back. Oops, the podcast. Gallerati and Lynch. Lynch, how you doing, buddy?
Doing all right. How are you?
I'm good, man. So guys, look, we have a little bit of an announcement here, sort of a lot of bit of an announcement. The pod will be going on hiatus. We may have like a obligation to fulfill an ad at some point in July. So we might do like one bonus episode that comes out toward the end of July. We don't want to do this, to be honest. But in full disclosure, at the moment, the pod is not fully financially viable for a couple different reasons. I think like there's some stuff with whatever that's not that interesting with like ads and partners, and you know the pod costs X amount of money to sort of sustain itself and to run, and yeah, it's looking like we have sort of entered a cycle where it may not be possible to continue keeping it afloat in a way that makes sense for us. And it's definitely a bummer. And there is a world where we kind of discuss like how we would announce that and if we even wanted to share that detail, because, you know, in theory, that's like, I don't know if embarrassing is the right word, but like, I don't want that to be the reason, but I also don't want to come on here and lie to you guys and be like, oh, we just like don't want to do it anymore. We're moving on to other things. Like, while that may just inevitably be true out of necessity, like it is not the reason why we are stopping it. Like in theory, if the pod were generating money or even making enough money to cover itself, I would keep doing it. Like if I was making $0, I would continue doing it. But there's costs that are associated with doing a pod, et cetera, as you guys must know by now. So, you know, it's a bummer, but we've had a ridiculous run. It's been 630 episodes. This is 631, right?
631. Yeah. This is 631 amongst many different variations.
Into the 630s. I mean, we started the pod in 2018, summer of 2018, when Lynch was still, you know, in his mother's womb. No, but we've been doing it a long time, dude. So, you know, and as you guys all know, there's been just like so many different fun waves. It's been it changed my life. You know, it took me to a new place with my comedy. It was the first time that I had supporters who would come to my show who because they listened to things that I did. And you know, it just immediately worked, which was great. And it has continued to. And for the record, like people still listen to the pod. Like we have still like a really solid core. And I'm sure this might be surprising to a lot of you. And, you know, kind of, I don't want to say surprising to us, but because maybe we kind of saw it coming for just a little while at the very least. But we've just had like a colossal run. And Lynch, I will say this, my favorite part of doing it has been this final chapter with you.
Thanks, Tim.
Particularly in this apartment, because I like this neighborhood so much. And when we first transitioned over, like we were doing great out of the gate. We kind of had to rush and panic and put it together. And I don't know, in a way that you guys may not even know about, which I'll be interested to dig into some of the nitty gritty of all this stuff, because I think it's interesting now at this point and in general. But this has been my favorite iteration of it. And I'm going to make a long eye contact with you. I'm sure it makes you uncomfortable.
Damn it, dude. You took it from me.
Yeah, but yeah, it's been the best. It's felt the best. It's like been the best vibes. You're just an incredible guy and just a talented, amazing, consummate professional. I think that like it's rare to meet a person in comedy who's able to do that like you. I don't know if it's because you had like a couple of years of traditional work experience, which I guess after knowing you, I highly recommend to anybody. But I think beyond that, I think it just speaks to your character, your upbringing, your family, wonderful people, even your brother, despite the fact that he's a little bit of a wild card. Bless his heart. Shout out to Chris. But yeah, it's been great, like becoming friends and like doing it all, man. It's felt really great, and I appreciate you, and it's been nice, man.
Thank you, dude. I didn't know we were doing doing this right now. So, you know, besides many thanks I'll give off camera, just when we went on to do this, just the two of us, it's a lot of time together. And so I would not have want to have spent so much time doing this project with anyone but you for a multitude of reasons. You're a great mentor. You helped open the door for me to explore my creativity while also giving me some stability in this not so stable world that we call comedy. So I'm just so glad that you introduced me to this world, and I kind of get to see you navigate through it many years ahead of me, and I can take all the good stuff that comes from that and implement it into mine. So thank you. It's weird to a degree. Like I've spent so much time with Giulio's family. Like this is a small production. Like what you see is what you get with us, and just appreciate, you know, all of you that have listened up until this point, every single variation, you know, all of you that didn't jump ship and have stuck around, and it's for a reason, and that main reason is because Giulio is someone worth tuning in for. You know, beyond comedy, in everything that you touch, it's intentional, and so yeah, it sucks that it's coming to an end, but I'm pretty proud of what we did. I'm really proud of the logistical factor in the sense that we did not skip an episode ever.
Never. All new episodes every Tuesday, Thursday since we started doing 2 a week.
Ever. I'm going to cherish all of this, and I'm pretty aware that this work situationship that you and I are in is not common, and I cherish it. So thank you.
Greatly appreciate it. Right back at you.
Thanks, dude.
And, you know, yeah, man, like it's been cool seeing you sort of like figure out what kind of stuff you like to do in the world and attack it and do a great job. You fucking changed the world with your Chipotle charge, and that was amazing to see. And yeah, man, hopefully, you know, this sort of like crash course into the business where like you've learned all these really valuable skills, and you know, we asked a lot of you, and when I say me, like by effectively turning you into the co-host of the show, not even effectively, like you were the co-host of the show. It wasn't necessarily going to be that at first, and it kind of like became that. Mm-hmm. And so that was cool. And, you know, it's you've been at it for a few years, and hopefully it's enough to kind of like smoothly transition into the next thing. I'm going to try to be as helpful as I can to make sure that you have a good situation moving forward. And it's interesting to just think about all the things, because yeah, like the pod has had different chapters, and, you know, it started sort of in the aftermath of Francis's sort of dramatic exit from Barstool, which I think everybody agrees was a little bit of a, you know, see it as you want, but I think, and when everybody looks back at that, it's sort of like a little bit of an overreaction. It was just kind of like a product of the time, and he was sort of like at rock bottom in a way, and we kind of put this pod together and came out of the gate swinging. Like we were getting ridiculous amount of downloads out of the gate. I think when we first started the pod, it was like in the top 10 comedy podcasts. Mm-hmm. For like the first couple of weeks, right?
Not surprising.
Yeah. And then from there, it sort of started to reset. So it's like there's the people who were fans of Francis from before, and then they were kind of getting used to me, which can also be hard. Sometimes the Barstool audience can be pretty harsh. So people were getting used to me, et cetera, et cetera. So what ended up happening is, as a metric, let's say we were going from 25,000 downloads our first episode. It went all the way down till during COVID, probably to about 3,000 or 4,000 an episode. And, you know, I can imagine that probably didn't feel great for Francis. It felt great for me because it was all new. And like, we invested a lot of money in the infrastructure into the infrastructure of the pod. Francis kindly and generously sort of fronted that. And then, you know, as the pod earned money, it went toward paying him back for that. And I would say after about a year, the pod was then generating money post paying off all the gear. So now I'm making money, and I now have these supporters, and suddenly I can like go on the road for the first time and sell tickets, and like very grateful to Francis for betting on me. Like I do think that I was a good choice, you know what I mean, for him. And as you guys know, we had a great rapport, and we were able to talk about things specifically in a way just from having similar experiences in a unique way, maybe for comedians. And yeah, it was just like lightning. It was easy. And from there, I think that it was an interesting thing because Ashley and Raina, Girls Gotta Eat, shout out to people who have been really, really good to the pod. They were huge in our sort of second iteration of our fan base, where like we started with this sort of like Barstool Francis fan base, lost a bunch of those people, and then we started building up this new fan base to the point where at one point our show was majority female listeners. And I don't think people realize that. Like we'd have these meetings. Now, granted, it's like tougher for men to sell female products because if you're not a woman, you can't sell a woman a tampon if you're a guy. I can't say like, oh yeah, it has great absorption or whatever. I don't even know if that's a tampon.
I don't know if
term.
you're allowed to say that.
Yeah. So like, you know, I get why maybe we didn't have like female skewing products all the time. But at that point, I would say probably the peak of the pod was maybe, I don't remember when we did our live pods in Boston, but we sold out the first one. And this is in City Winery, the small room. And I think that room must see
Summer 2022.
Summer 2022. So summer 2022, we sell out City Winery. We then have another show. And it's kind of taking us a while to sell that one out. And we kind of don't understand why and et cetera, et cetera. And it turns out it's because we had already sold it out and they didn't realize it. So we actually sold out 3 shows. And they had to change the layout of the room to accommodate all of the people. That was like the way they did it. It was an incredible triumph. It was a great moment. And we just went up there and we were fucking kings. We were rock stars. You know what I mean? And it was so cool. It was such a fun thing. Then from there, we get acquired by Barstool again. So what happened there is Francis effectively gets an offer he can't refuse to go back to Barstool, which he was maybe like working toward. It kind of doesn't matter. But like, it was a good fit for him to begin with. It was like a great opportunity for redemption. I learned a lot watching him sort of deal with the aftermath of losing that job and the way that he approached his relationships with all the people there. And like, he did an amazing job of like not taking it personally and not holding grudges against people, which I was just like really, really impressed by. Whether or not he like meant it or not, it sort of didn't matter. And I think he did, but it was very stoic. It was very impressive. And it sort of allowed that door to open again in a way where it was just like easy. So naturally he's going to take that job again. Now this is a complicated thing because he's going to go back. The way it works there is, and they talk about this, like one of the amazing things about Barstool is that like you really understand how things work there. That's part of the content structure. It's almost like its own reality show. There's different ways to learn about it. And effectively like your work can't be separated from you. So like in theory, if Francis is going to go do this, go to Barstool, he's going to bring this pod that we do, which is a successful pod in its own right, but maybe by Barstool standards, like it's no Power of My Take. It's not as big as some of those big shows. So we're coming in as this like mid-level show. And you know, it was a tough spot for him because, you know, he didn't want to leave us in the dust. And, you know, I think he loved doing the pod and wanted to try to make it work at Barstool. So figured out a way to make that work. Things got a little confusing and we had some trouble figuring out the arrangement in a way that like definitely put tension on us and just on the show. It sort of made the show vulnerable, but we like worked through it like pros and it was all good. And we figured out a way to kind of make it work. But it was a little bit of a ticking time bomb because the structure, the way that they had structured the show, and while all this was happening, like Lynch and Chris were sort of not aware of it because we were trying to just like not make it dramatic. We figured out a way to make it work, and from there it just became tough because we were all independent contractors working at Barstool, and in order for that to make sense, the show would have had to generate so much money to like cover the expenses of how much we were all making. And it was sort of like a situation where for at least Francis and I, and especially Francis, and later now I see it more clearly where like, it was sort of just like a matter of time before it didn't work anymore. And there is a world where the show could have just absolutely blown up and like done amazing and it wouldn't have mattered and like everybody would have been good, but it sort of didn't happen. And eventually we end up in a situation where they're cutting the show despite it doing well. I think there was another turnover in our fan base there as well. I think maybe we lost some of the Girls Gotta Eat people who maybe weren't as Barstool. I don't know if Barstool had become as mainstream at that point quite yet.
I think there was a lot of Oops listeners that weren't necessarily fans of Barstool, but were fans of Francis. And so coming over to Oops initially was to support Francis the person and not Francis the Barstool employee. So when he went back to Barstool, I think a lot of people are like, okay, you're going back, I'm out.
Oh, interesting.
I think
I didn't think of that.
I'll be honest, I'm chronically online. I've always been reading up on the Reddit threads. I'm very privy to the opinions online.
Yeah, I'm
you,
not
you
as
take
much.
that with a grain of salt. That was a part of it. And I know there was a ton of, just the timing was brutal once we got there, because if they weren't planning on making cuts for another year after the decision to make the cuts, that could have completely changed the podcast. It could be a completely different reality. But because there were cuts when there were cuts under the expectations that were presented that were unsurmountable, it was a ticking time bomb too.
Interesting.
I saw it like that as well. I felt aware. You guys are very good at mommy and daddy with me and Chris. But I could see the writing on the wall too, because I was always reading everything all the time to an unhealthy amount. I was very aware.
There's a lot of activities that a nicotine pouch really makes better. One of them is a long drive. Another one is sitting at a desk for a long period of time. Sometimes even just sitting on the couch watching the final round of the US Open. There's a variety of scenarios where it's really value add. Lucy Breakers is what I got right here with me. I got one in right now. I have the apple cider, very fun. You burst the little flavor ball, tuck it, good to go. Whether you're doing bottom or upper deckies, you can get in there for both. Great flavor variety. I really like the mango as well. I also like the coffee flavor. Coffee Lucy with an actual coffee. What a great combo. Nice way to start the day. If you're looking for a solid, clean nicotine pouch option, Lucy's got you covered. They got 4, 8, 12 milligram strengths. I personally am a 4 guy. But yeah, Lucy's where it's at.
Let's level up your nicotine routine with Lucy. Go to lucy.co/oops and use promo code OOPS to get 20% off your first order. Lucy has a 30-day refund policy if you change your mind. Again, that's lucy.co and use code OOPS to get 20% off. And here comes the fine print. Lucy products are only for adults of legal age, and every order is age verified. Warning, this product contains nicotine. Nicotine is an addictive chemical.
So it's interesting because, okay, there was turnover. And I think one interesting thing about Barstool is if you leave Barstool, sometimes it can be tough to take Barstool with you. And I think Francis definitely experienced that to some degree with the pod, and I don't know, maybe in general, maybe not, but like as the pod, there was a ton of drop off at the beginning, like I was saying, and then we kind of built it back up. So a lot of those people were new people who weren't Barstool Francis fans necessarily. So then we go back, we're back in the Barstool ecosystem, and immediately our YouTube numbers start going up a lot, which is cool because that kind of happens at Barstool. And at that time, like the YouTube view was just starting to be viewed as equal to a pod download. Before that, the pod download was like more powerful of a metric. And then that kind of turned to like even Steven, to the point where now I think the YouTube view is maybe even more valuable. Hard to really say. And I'm sure it's different situation to situation. But so at that point, our downloads kind of like stayed similar, but it still just like felt vulnerable. And especially for us, because, we're contractors. So in theory, like we're disposable and then there's like nothing we can do. So for me, it was definitely challenging and tough spot for Francis too. Like what's he supposed to do? Leave his job? Like he can't like keep doing an outside pod. So like whether or not he wanted to keep doing it sort of doesn't really matter. It's more of, it was a shitty situation for him. He kind of just gets to like not have to have any of his things change, which like, maybe, I don't know how obvious that was to everybody, but I definitely think he got some hate when that was all happening. And that's sort of like
it's a tough decision.
Impossible for him not to. And he made the only decision he could make, and I don't hold it against him. And so what happens is I'm at a wedding. I get this phone call while I'm in fucking Italy. It was in Montenegro. I get the call. I'm like, all right. So now I have 2 weeks to figure out what to do. So at this point, Chris is kind of clearly on the outs. Chris has had this like incredible transformation. He went from sort of like assistant coach to like artist, in a very short period of time. He had started having a good thing with Matteo. And I think that like he was ready to move on. And it wasn't even a hard such conversation because I knew we wouldn't be able to afford to keep both of you, but I thought Chris was just going to tell me that he was done, which is what ended up happening. And it was all good. And I love Chris to this day. I talk to him all the time. And then, I'm on the road that whole week when I got back too. So basically really, really quickly had to try to figure out a way to make it all work, which was crazy. And it was crazy to have to do it in 2 weeks. And like, I would never wish it upon anybody, and I would never do it to somebody because of how insane it was. So we were able to do it, and we never missed an episode. We hit the ground running, and we started doing it solo dolo on our own, and the show kind of took its next leap. And, Lynch stepped up and was able to wear a bunch of hats in stride. Didn't even seem like, and I know how hard he worked and focused and did everything he had to do. He never fucks up. It's like wild, actually, how solid Lynch's process must be, where he's just so solid. And yeah, now here we are, and it's been a couple good years on the back end of all of this. We changed apartments, came here, set up the home studio, threw up some wallpaper to make the background look better than that sort of like window background that was impossible to avoid in my old apartment where the lighting was weird. And we made this thing we're really proud of. And I can't say it enough. Like, we appreciate the people who've been with us the whole time. We appreciate the new people who started listening during this iteration. Even the people who used to listen, who come to the shows and still support me, even if they don't still listen to the show. Obviously I appreciate that too. And it's bittersweet, dude. You know what I mean? Good run, good shit, tough business, but it is what it is. And you kind of have to always be keeping up and reinventing yourself because periodically things change. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The pod landscape even appears to be different than it used to be. But we were part of this like glorious era of whatever it was. And at that time, dude, like starting a pod almost felt like you missed the boat when we started Oops.
2018?
Yeah. Francis was like, I know what you're thinking when you hear I'm starting a podcast. Like,
No, it was not. It was nowhere near as saturated.
nowhere
as it is
near,
now.
nowhere near. And it felt like it was. And that was inside baseball. Like, I was around comedy all the time. That's all I knew. So to me, it was like the cat was already out of the bag, but it got even crazier from then to now. And it was great to like be able to capitalize on one of those waves and ride it into the next, right into the sunset, sort of. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, dude.
Yeah, I appreciate Giulio's got great discretion because when we got the news that the pod was getting cut, you didn't tell us right away. And I remember we just filmed a bunch of ads, a bunch of like social content ads to promote the new merch that we got. And I was so excited about the merch. I was so excited. I was pumped. I was so excited. I'm like a year removed from quitting my job to be a part of this podcast. I was so excited that we were releasing new merch. I bought merch as a listener of the podcast. Actually, no. My wife bought me a t-shirt. I didn't even ask her for it. She just knew that I listened to you and Francis so much in 2018 and 2019. She bought me a shirt. I still wear it to bed. I still sleep with you and Francis from time to time. And so it was a no-brainer to quit my job to join the pod. It was special. And so when the band broke and we found out that the pod was splitting up, dude, I was just devastated. And so to be able to survive for more than 2 years after the fact is just, put our nose down. We controlled what we could. I read everything on Reddit. I'm well aware of it's its own iteration. You can't compare it. It's its own thing. And I'm proud we got to stick around for 2 years. Yeah. 2 more years on top of that.
Great.
It would have been very easy for you to pivot and try to figure something else out, but you're very smart and strategic, and you called me with intentions to continue recording as if nothing ever happened, so that we still never skipped a week. Yeah. There's a lot of pride in that. I take a lot of pride in not skipping a week because most podcasts don't make it past the 7th episode, and we did 629 straight. Yeah. That's awesome.
I mean, even more. It's going to be in the 630s after we're all said and done. So
yeah,
all good shit. Obviously shout out to Francis and Chris. And everybody, like I was saying, who've been involved this whole time. I'm trying to think. This is a funny story. It's a good opportunity to kind of disclose a lot of this stuff. I mean, with a lot of the stuff that I just talked about, like, I didn't want to get too into it right after it all happened, especially with like the Barstool stuff when we became independent again, because there's just a way to like either sound salty or sort of like admit like this lack of control that might have been obvious, but like still isn't something that I wanted to like dump onto the listeners because it just seemed unnecessary. It's like, we're moving forward. We're still making a good thing. There's no need to like complain, not that I was just complaining, but or just like get into what went wrong or whatever, because we're not focused on that. We're focusing on the future. It was a great opportunity to get Big G involved. He became this like great character. I know he was before, but having him on the show was definitely a highlight. Those Hillary episodes out of the gate were really great. We had like great viral moments from those. All fucking good shit. Dude, so this happened. This is funny. So we first decided we were going to do merch. Francis is kind of like, whatever, like, he was like too busy. He like didn't really feel like it. So he's like, if you guys want to figure it out, to me and Chris, like figure it out. And I was like, all right. And then like, obviously I'll split the money with you. So basically like tasked Chris with this. Was a way for Chris to like make a couple extra bucks potentially. And we were going to plan this drop. So we did it, and we sort of like didn't know what we were doing, and we still set it up successfully. But when you use one of these print on demand services, what ends up happening is you get charged to make the shirt, and then you get the money for the shirt later. So like say it costs $20 to make the shirt, sell the shirt for 30 and the shipping, whatever.
You don't just get the profit. You pay up front, then you get reimbursed with profit.
Exactly. So then you get your $7 of profit on a t-shirt, say, and those margins change depending on what you're selling. The t-shirts have the best margins. So Chris set it all up, and Chris had it like linked to his debit card, which poor little Chris, dude, like he was, young, like just getting his shit started. Like now Chris is probably, there's a world where Chris is the most successful financially of any of us. It's possible, like given what he's doing now, and he deserves it. He's incredibly talented, gentle, great guy, so creative, so amazing. I can't stop saying good things about him. But so when it starts happening, our first merch drop did pretty well, and Chris is just getting absolutely annihilated with these like debits, boom, 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 and he was like, "What the fuck?" I was like, "Dude, change it over to my credit card. Like it's fine. Like we'll figure it out." But anyway, I thought that was funny, and he'd chuckle if he catches wind of this. I don't think we're going to do a big social media post about it. I don't know how much good that does. The only people who matter and who need to hear this are you guys, the people who are listening to this episode right now. I don't see how like by posting on social media, it gives any sort of closure or there's anything that I want to say to that audience. I mean, like I said, anybody who like follows us on social but doesn't listen to the pod, like there's no need for them to like they'll figure it out, I guess. And also, yeah, it's a podcast.
It's relevant to everyone sitting in the room with us right now.
Exactly. You listen to the pod, and whatever. So, appreciate it, and appreciate all you guys. I will say it's such an interesting, like emotional roller coaster in a way, because you build up this big following, you have these fans, you have this like, if you want to call them that, I feel like that's sort of a yucky term, fans, but like whatever, like people who support you and listen to your shit. And then I go on my own, and Lynch and I go independent again, and like inevitably there's turnover, you know what I mean? And that's fine. Like the turnover is fine because you build. And then once you're at this level, if you have turnover, but you stay at the same level, it doesn't matter. People come, people go. You kind of don't notice. But as things kind of start to modify in a way that makes the pod smaller, or you start making less money, or whatever starts happening, it's hard to not take it personally when people stop listening to the show. You know what I mean? So there can be a world where like, that's been a thing that I've like thought of, and I'm like, oh man, like that's shitty that like, these people, I try to like go out of my way to be like really accessible and really like, and then like, this is how you get repaid. It's a ridiculous way to think about it. And it's not the nature.
It's valid though. It's valid to have those feelings, dude.
It's not the nature of the beast. Like the nature of the beast, like, or maybe it is the nature of the beast. I don't know what I mean by saying that, but like, it just it's what happens. Like people listen to the show or they don't listen to the show, and that's it. You know what I mean? So by me being like, I tried my best, and I'm in a place where I'm in a good place with it emotionally, but like there was definitely a time where I was like annoyed about the idea that I was like, oh, like I was just like ready to bend over backwards for anybody who listened to the show. And then like, this is what happens. Like, fuck that. Like, I won't make that mistake again. And that's stupid. You know what I mean? It's not, I love interacting with people who support my stuff, and it's conditional. You get to do it based on whether or not you are interested and you like to listen to it. So the Patreon's a cool way for me to be able to connect with you guys. I guess I would definitely say if there's a way where you're like, you want to keep supporting me, it would definitely be awesome to see you on the Patreon. Obviously no pressure, since if you're into podcasts, but you don't like travel shit, like totally get it. As well as Lynch, whatever Lynch comes up with, that we don't know about yet. Meaning like that you haven't thought of or you haven't started doing, not saying that I don't know what you're doing. I think I'm up to speed. Not that it's any of my business.
Daddy chill.
Yeah. son. But yeah, so that was definitely an interesting thing to learn about. And there's this thing in entertainment too, where like, say you have your like biggest moment, right? Like say selling out those big pod shows. Like maybe that wasn't as big of a deal for Francis as it was for me. Like, you know, he obviously had like a big following and he probably had like similar moments like that. But like that was such an awesome, cool moment. And like, even when I then went to other markets and sold out and was like, oh my God. And like, maybe if I go back to those places and if I haven't sold as well or anything, like it's interesting. I understand a bit more the idea of people trying to grasp onto their best moments, even with like the biggest comedians. You know what I mean? I'm like, how is that guy bitter? He's had the biggest career. But you kind of like remember your like biggest moment and it felt so good. And like, that's what it's all about. And like, when that changes, that can be challenging. And I think that it's maybe a good lesson. I don't know. I know there's ways to compare it to other things. And since I don't do other things, like I don't necessarily specifically know how to do that, but I think there's some good lesson there where it's like, it's important to try to work hard. You can't always stay positive, but you have to like look forward and keep recreating yourself and keep thinking of ideas. And what's the word? I can't think of it, but you need to
be resilient.
Yeah. Resilient. There's a degree of ingenuity that doesn't go away when it comes to business, where like you need to adapt and change. And like, if you keep your product the same, people aren't going to use it. So, I know that I've survived many different waves of comedy where it's like, at first, like you needed to be on Letterman. And like, I was doing comedy then. Like I know people who did Letterman. I remember when they were getting it. And like, then you got Letterman and then you could go on the road and then you could get Comedy Central special. And then maybe people would care about you, but it sort of didn't matter at that time. Like the direct to consumer model didn't exist. So like there was that. Then it was like the next thing where, you know, Comedy Central digital and like web series and like people kind of started to make their own things, but it was like hard to measure the success. You were still at Comedy Central. It didn't matter if nobody watched your thing. You were at Comedy Central. And then we started to like be more aware of who was seeing what and like everybody sort of got it. And then there was that whole like Schultz era and the clips, Instagram clips and reels. And like, it's just all constantly changing, and the Patreon, and it will continue to. So I think that it's easy to like, it takes so much of your energy to like survive these different stages. And there can be a time where like your tank gets empty enough where you just can't take it anymore. And I think that like great comics have tapped out because of that. I hope to never get to that point, and I don't see a scenario where that is going to happen to me. Like I think I'm too creative. I have too much to say and to offer. And personally, I love a world where I have a pod, and I'd like to theoretically always have one. This will be the first time in a while that I haven't. I plan to do one eventually. We'll see what Lynch is up to during that time. And if there's a way we can do something together, I would love to keep collaborating however we can. And, you know, obviously intend to like keep a very close relationship with you if you're open to it.
Yes.
Yeah, man, just like keep fighting the good fight and keep doing it, because it's a wild ride and it's unpredictable and it can be hard sometimes, but yeah, man. So
yeah, dude, it's better. I could talk about all the memory. Like I talk about this forever and just, you know, what went well, what didn't go well, what could have been done better. And I just jumped into this with such a warped perspective on how this industry works. And I thought it was just like, oh, you done this, you're all set.
Oh yeah.
No.
Yeah. Everybody thinks that.
Like, no, you have to make your own success. And so I learned it's a good lesson to learn that, you know, nothing lasts forever. But I will say that I feel that I am in the best position creatively to be successful thanks to you and thanks to this experience.
Yeah, you have the skills to pay the bills, brother.
One last thing I'll say is just thank you for your kindness and your patience during that transition. I think I was in my head a lot trying to figure out what version of myself I needed to be for the podcast to continue once we left Barstool. There was a period of time where I was trying to be Francis. I was trying to fill the void of that undeniable chemistry that made the podcast so special for Giulio and Francis and everybody that listened. And I know a lot of people left once that version of the podcast ended. So those of you that stayed, I found my footing. I accepted the version of myself that I am, and that is being me. And I can't be anybody else but that. And so I rant and vent and I get angry about little things every day. And that's just who I am. And for those of you that appreciated seeing that side of somebody sitting across the microphone with Giulio, thank you. Because I know that it wasn't the easiest transition, and it felt great being able to be myself while contributing for a couple of years. It took a while to get there, but the kind words that I've heard every now and then of support means a lot, because during that transition, I was just trying to find my voice, and I ended up, I think, by the time we're recording today, like, this is me. So if you want to stick around and see what I'm up to, I'm at Ryan is Really Polite. I'm doing improv now. I'm doing stand-up now. I post all about that, and just proud to be a part of this bigger overarching community that Giulio and Francis brought to the podcasting world a few years ago.
Awesome. Dude, I fucking love it. It's music to my ears to hear it. I'll say this too. One of the highlights of my life was adding you to the logo.
Thank you.
It looked great. It was so fun. It was so, everything about it. And shout out to Elaine, who I remember there was a couple people who sent this message. I think Delaney was one of them, Elaine, and a couple other people who were like, it's time for like Lynch to be in the logo. And I'd been thinking about it already, and it just sort of like kicked me in the ass to just like remember to like prioritize that, because it was obviously important, and I knew it was going to happen. I knew I wanted to do it. So thank you for that, because it ended up being it's a great looking logo too. It's my favorite one that we've had.
It's
with
nice.
a little homage to Francis on the banana sticker, if you guys noticed that. From the bottom of my heart, it's been a pleasure. It means the world to me, to the people who stay interested and who believe in me when I don't even believe in myself. You know what I mean? It can be a hard industry to kind of stay confident and keep going, and shit happens, and falling outs, and there's toxic people who are like causing problems for you, and it's awkward, and it's just such a tough business. And this is a safe place for me where I can just kind of come on here and talk, and gave me confidence that like people cared about what I had to say, because I always felt like I had good stuff to say. So this cemented that, and it's been great being the sort of the pillar of the whole operation the whole time. Really special.
Yeah.
And I guess some special thanks to some of our partners, the Advertise Cast people, really great. Our original partners, Bird Dogs and Brooklyn Roasting Company and Hang Obi. Shout out to Conrad. Rule of Threads. Shout out to Danielle K, our girl. She helped me with my Comoros plan. And to the Armenian girls, Mane and Ani. Shout out to Adam Quinlan, who ended up shooting video at my wedding. Hire him. He's great. He's a big travel guy. And anybody who I left out or who I forgot, I'm sorry. There's so many of you guys over the years that have been amazing. It's been amazing. So here's to the next thing. And hopefully like this will be a fun thing to be able to tell people that you listen to this one day if one of us becomes massively successful, and it's like a fun tidbit. I think for now we'll leave all the stuff online and leave it up, because I think there's ways for us to still generate money from some of our old ads. So we'll definitely let those rock. We'll keep the IP, we'll keep it all as is. And if I come back, it will probably live on this same feed. So keep your eyes peeled, since we have like existing downloads and people who automatically get it to pop up. So if you're willing to keep it on your thing, we'd obviously appreciate that. And it's been the most important thing in my life professionally at all stages, both from helping me grow and helping me learn and all that shit, man. So I say it with a fucking big smile on my face that it's been a goddamn pleasure, brother. It's been a goddamn pleasure. And I think that's it. Sayonara for the last time from Oops. For now, we'll see. Maybe there'll be an Oops 3.0 someday. Maybe not. Maybe there'll be another pod. But that is all for me. You know where to find us. Not Julio. Come see me on the road. It would mean the world. I have Charlotte coming up, Comedy Club at Duckworth, 17th to the 19th. I have New York City the 21st of August. I have St. Pete the 26th and 27th of September. I have Houston, Texas, November 7th. I believe it's Riot Comedy Club, I think it's called, notjulio.com for tickets. And then I'm trying to add LA for that like last week of October. And I got a bunch of good videos coming, and looking forward to this next stage of my life. So come out. Like I said before, Patreon, Not Julio. YouTube channel, Not Julio. Lynch, anything to add?
Ron is really polite. Thank you.
And at the end of this episode, Lynch and I are going to have a great hug. It's going to be a beautiful thing. And that is that. So thank you. Until next time. Oops Podcast.